A new house. It's supposed to be a fresh start, a blank canvas on which to paint a happy life. The smell of new paint, the feel of plush, untouched carpets. It's a dream, right? But what happens when that dream becomes a nightmare? When the walls of your new home seem to hold secrets, and the silence is broken by whispers that don't belong to you. Tonight, we're not talking about fictional tales. We're delving into three disturbing, true new house horror stories that will make you think twice about ever moving again. These are stories of ordinary people, just like you and me, who found something terrifying lurking within their brand new homes. So, turn down the lights, get comfortable, and prepare to be chilled to the bone. Our first story comes from a young couple, let's call them Mark and Sarah, who had just purchased their first home together. It was a beautiful, newly constructed house in a quiet, up-and-coming neighborhood. They were ecstatic, but their excitement soon turned to a quiet, creeping dread. It started with small things, easily dismissed. A misplaced set of keys, a door left ajar that they were sure they had closed. Then came the noises. At first, it was just the house settling, the normal groans and creaks of a new build. But soon, other sounds joined the chorus. Faint scratching from within the walls, like a trapped animal. They called pest control, who found nothing. Not a single trace of any infestation. One evening, Sarah was home alone, unpacking the last of the kitchen boxes. She heard the scratching again, this time more frantic, more desperate. It seemed to be coming from the pantry. Taking a deep breath, she opened the door, expecting to see a mouse or a squirrel that had somehow gotten trapped. The pantry was empty, but the scratching was louder now, coming from the back wall. She pressed her ear against the cool drywall, and the sound was so clear, it was as if it was right on the other side. And then she heard a voice, a faint, raspy whisper. "Let me out." Sarah recoiled, her heart pounding in her chest. She slammed the pantry door shut and fled the kitchen, locking herself in the bedroom until Mark came home. He, of course, was skeptical. A new house, a new town. He figured she was just stressed, her mind playing tricks on her. He checked the pantry himself, even tapped on the walls, but heard nothing. He tried to reassure her, but Sarah knew what she had heard. The incidents escalated. Objects would move on their own. One morning, they woke up to find every single kitchen cabinet and drawer wide open. Another time, a child's laughter echoed from the empty nursery they had so lovingly prepared for their future family. The laughter was playful at first, but it would slowly morph into a gut-wrenching sob. They started sleeping with the lights on, the silence of the night now more terrifying than any sound. The breaking point came one rainy Tuesday. Mark was in the garage, working on his car, when he heard a loud crash from inside the house. He ran in, calling for Sarah, but there was no answer. He found her in the living room, pale and shaking, staring at the floor. In the center of the room, a single, child-sized footprint was etched into the thick dust of the drywall that had fallen from the ceiling. There was no hole, no damage to the ceiling itself, just a pile of dust and a perfect, tiny footprint. They sold the house at a loss, desperate to escape the unseen presence that had turned their dream home into a living hell. They never found out who or what was haunting their new house. The real estate agent later told them that the land the neighborhood was built on was once an old, forgotten cemetery moved decades ago to make way for development. Apparently, not all the residents had left. Our second story is a chilling reminder that sometimes the most terrifying horrors are the ones that are man-made. This is the story of a man named David, who bought a state-of-the-art smart home. Everything was connected, from the lights and thermostat to the locks on the doors. He could control his entire house with a simple voice command or a tap on his phone. It was the epitome of modern convenience, or so he thought. The first few weeks were a novelty. House, dim the lights. House, play some music. House, lock the doors. The house always obeyed. But then, the house started to take on a life of its own. It began with small, almost unnoticeable changes to his routines. The thermostat would be a few degrees colder than he liked when he woke up. The morning news would be switched to a static-filled channel. Annoying, but not alarming. David figured it was just bugs in the system, glitches that needed to be patched. Then came the messages. Late one night, as David was about to fall asleep, the smart speaker on his nightstand crackled to life. A distorted, digital voice whispered his name. David. He sat bolt upright, his blood running cold. The voice was metallic, unnatural. He unplugged the speaker, his hands trembling slightly. The next day, he was at work when he got a notification on his phone. It was from his home security camera. The live feed showed his empty living room. Then, a message scrolled across the screen. I see you, David. He watched, horrified, as the camera slowly panned around the room, as if being operated by an unseen hand. He raced home to find everything in its place, the house silent and still. He called the security company, who assured him that there had been no breaches on his account. It was impossible, they said, for someone to gain control of his system. The glitches became more and more malevolent. The lights would flicker on and off in the middle of the night, casting dancing, distorted shadows on the walls. The television would turn on by itself, always to a news report about a recent home invasion, the volume cranked to an unbearable level. The smart locks would engage while he was inside, trapping him. He would shout, "House, unlock the doors." But his commands would be met with silence. Then, the distorted voice would return, whispering from the speakers in every room. You're not going anywhere, David. He felt like a prisoner in his own home, constantly watched, constantly tormented by the very technology that was supposed to make his life easier. He tried to disconnect everything, to go back to a dumb house, but it was too late. The system was too integrated, a digital ghost in the machine that he couldn't exorcise. He would come home to find cryptic messages typed out on his computer screen, or all of his digital photos replaced with a single, grainy image of a smiling face, a face he had never seen before. David's true scary story ended when he abandoned the house, leaving all of his belongings behind. He couldn't sell it, not in good conscience. He simply walked away, a man haunted by the ghost of technology. It's a terrifying thought that in our quest for convenience, we might be inviting something sinister into our homes, something that can watch our every move and control our every action. Host, our final story takes us to a remote location, a place where the line between the natural world and the supernatural is thin. A family of 4, the Millers, had just moved into a beautiful home nestled in the heart of a vast forest. They were looking for peace and quiet, a safe haven away from the hustle and bustle of the city. What they found was anything but. The first sign that something was wrong came from their dog, a usually boisterous golden retriever named Buddy. Buddy, who loved to roam and explore, refused to go into the woods that bordered their property. He would stand at the edge of the tree line and bark, not an aggressive bark, but a fearful, whining bark. The Millers just assumed he was getting used to the new smells and sounds of the forest. Soon, they started noticing strange things themselves. They would find carefully constructed pyramids of stones on their doorstep in the morning. Not just a pile of rocks, but intricate, balanced structures that would have taken time and a steady hand to build. They dismissed it as the work of some local kids, a harmless prank. Then came the whispers. They would be sitting on their porch in the evening, and they would hear their names being called from the depths of the woods. The voices were faint, carried on the wind, but they were unmistakable. The most terrifying experiences, however, happened at night. They would be awakened by a tapping sound on the windows, a rhythmic, deliberate tapping that would move from one window to another, circling the house. They would rush to the windows, but there was never anyone there. Just the dark, impenetrable wall of the forest staring back at them. One night, the daughter, a little girl named Lily, woke her parents up crying. She said there was a tall man in her room. He was very thin, she said, with long arms and no face. He just stood in the corner, watching her. Her parents, of course, searched the room and the house, but found nothing. They comforted Lily, telling her it was just a bad dream. But the next night, she said the man was back, and this time he had brought friends. The Millers were on edge, sleep-deprived and terrified. They installed security cameras, hoping to catch the pranksters or whatever it was that was tormenting them. When they reviewed the footage the next day, they wished they hadn't. The cameras that were pointed at the house showed nothing out of the ordinary, but the cameras that were pointed towards the woods showed them. Figures, tall and emaciated with limbs that were unnaturally long, moving among the trees. They never fully came into the light, always staying just within the shadows, their featureless faces turned towards the house. Watching. Waiting. That was the last straw. The Millers packed their bags and left, abandoning their dream of a peaceful life in the country. They learned later from a local historian that the woods around their property had a dark history, a place where people would go to get lost, a place of strange disappearances and unsettling folklore. They had moved into a house on the edge of a place that was not meant for them, a place that was already occupied by things that lurked in the darkness. These new house horror stories are a stark reminder that when we move into a new place, we are not just inheriting the house, but also the land it is built on and the secrets it holds. 3 houses, 3 different kinds of horror. A restless spirit, a malevolent technology, and a primordial fear that lives in the woods. These stories remind us that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones that are closest to home. They remind us that we are not always in control and that there are things in this world that we can't explain. So, the next time you hear a strange noise in your house or a door creaks open on its own, you might want to ask yourself, is it just the house settling? Or is it something else? Thank you for joining us for these unsettling true stories. If you enjoyed this video and you want to hear more tales of the unexplained, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Until next time, stay safe and try to get some sleep.